So once upon a time, as you all know, Papa Nubank acquired Cognitect and Datomic in 2020. Acquisitions can carry some baggage, concerns about control, direction, and values. But in this case, there was something deeper. There was actually alignment. Nubank had this mission to simplify banking for Brazilians, and that resonated with Datomic's philosophy of simplicity in software. It's a shared commitment to reducing complexity that made the partnership not only workable, but powerful and beneficial. So since then, we've grown the Datomic team considerably, showing Nubank's commitment to the product. That's me. I'm on the Datomic team now. Yay! So last October, I visited Nubank's headquarters in Brazil for our storage and databases all hands. Now, I am a seasoned traveler, and one of my personal values is independence. So instead of sitting in São Paulo traffic, which is the word, just so bad, I decided I wanted to take public transport. All my time in Europe taught me well. It was a terrible idea. No one spoke English. We were underground, and my translation app didn't work. I couldn't even read the kiosk instructions, so I thought I would try the classic strategy. I would just notice and copy the locals, see what they were doing. So I posted up next to a kiosk so I could study what buttons they were hitting and copy the pattern. And I watched person after person, and some succeeded, some failed, but the common denominator was that every card with that iconic Nubank purple just worked. And that may be anecdotal, but that was the first time that I realized how deeply we're impacting real people, and not just a few. As of April 2025, Nubank serves 114.3 million users. We've grown from 93.9 million customers in 2023 to 114.3, adding over 20 million users. We sustain an 83% activity rate, and despite rising total customer base and sustained active customer base, we have some of the lowest cost to serve as a bank globally. The lowest cost to serve globally, and we are an independent bank. One of Nubank's values is creating fanatical customers, and this customer-centric approach is what's helped them become the biggest independent bank in the world. So since 2015, we've added nearly 13 million customers every year on average. But here's what's amazing, is that 80% of that growth came from word-of-mouth referrals alone. Because before Nubank entered the scene, retail lending in Brazil was a game rigged against the average individual. Interest rates on personal loans often topped 100% per year. There was very low financial inclusion. As recently as 2017, about 45 million of Brazilians were unbanked, under the grid, underbanked. And before Nubank Credit, access was either non-existent or just so prohibitively expensive that most people just didn't have it. And so for millions of people, Nubank was their first credit card, their first savings account, their first loan. What does that translate to in technical terms, though? So we handle petabytes of data. We have over 3,000 Datomic databases, some with over 100 billion datoms. We have 4,000 microservices with Kubernetes. We process 72 billion daily events via Kafka, and we routinely handle millions of requests per second. And that's all within complex banking compliance regulations, where the consequence of getting it wrong isn't just a bad performance review. The consequence is going to jail. So last week, I was in Norway at NDC Oslo, and I met some folks from another database that were really, really excited to talk to me and talk to the team. And they said that they were just last night talking about Nubank and admiring how we're really more of a tech company than we were a bank, and that's an astute observation. We have there's a recent report that's dropped over 8,700 employees spread across 6 countries and over 3,000 engineers. So let's talk for a second about scalability and what that even means. Because we are at a Clojure conference, here is the obligate Latin root. And we can see that it means a ladder used in sieges. So scalability is the ability to climb or ascend a ladder. Okay. The thing is, the definition of scalability has evolved since Latin. So much so, there's even recently been a scientific paper on it. This paper looked to harmonize all the definitions of scalability as a company in scaling and scaling up. And it looked at 57 different articles to try and define what scaling actually means. So I was consuming all of the literature on this, and there was something that stuck out. This distinction between growth and scaling. Because growth is increasing revenue, but at what cost? Well, any cost. So you're getting bigger, but you're also proportionally increasing your resources. Growth is like walking on an escalator in the wrong direction. You may seem like you're moving, but you're not actually progressing very far. Scaling, on the other hand, is increasing your output, but proportionally reducing your resources. Scaling is riding the escalator in the right direction. And funny enough, that matches another one of Nubank's values, pursuing smart efficiency. So an efficiency ratio is a financial metric that assesses how effectively a company utilizes its resources to generate revenue and profits. It measures the ability of a company to convert assets into income. And it indicates how well they're managing their operations and maximizing their profitability. So Nubank does amazing in this metric. In a recent report, they have a 29.9 efficiency rating when the industry average is almost twice that. So how is Nubank keeping their cost to serve down and operating so efficiently? Well, I'm not qualified to speak on much, but what I am qualified to speak on is the different types of scalability in the context of a fintech software company. Because scalability isn't just handling more users. At Nubank, we think about architectural scalability, asking questions like, can our systems grow without a complete redesign? Does the architecture stay performant under load, which leads us to performance scalability? Can we increase the throughput without increasing latency or cost? And then we have our people process scalability. Do human problems cause your system to break or prevent you from moving forward and prevent you from shipping? That's just a cool slide I made. That might be a new t-shirt, we'll see. Okay, first we're gonna talk about architectural scalability. Oh, I didn't center the div, oh man. Okay. Traditional databases cluster or shard to handle load, which introduces coordination and complexity. Datomic takes a completely different approach. It does the peer model. So in Datomic, the heavy lifting of doing reads moves out and is distributed among peers. Peers are distributed application nodes that can do things like run queries, cache data locally, read directly from storage, and submit transactions to a central transactor. So it flips the model where the brain isn't the server anymore. Each peer is capable. This model lets us scale reads horizontally and cache aggressively without breaking consistency. So the goal of this model is to reduce the load on a single monolithic server and transfer the burden of getting all the answers to a distributed peer model. So imagine a big box store on Black Friday. It's chaos, hundreds of people fighting over the same checkout lane. That's like a monolithic system under load. Now picture small business Saturday. dozens of independent shops, each handling their own customers. That's Datomic's peer model. The work is distributed, and so the load is manageable. The peer model architecture is arbitrarily horizontally scalable. And I'm not going to talk much about our storage layer today, but something I found interesting in our architecture is when I was first learning programming, one of the cheat codes that I would use to reason something out was, when in doubt, abstract it out. And that's exactly what we do with our storage layer. This means we can integrate and sit on top of most other storage layers. SQL, Postgres, were built with AWS in mind, and that's what Nubank uses. But you can use any relational database. Anything with a key value store that we can store segments in. So in the peer model, you can improve the performance of your system by improving the performance of your transactions. And there are several features added to Datomic in the last year or so that improve the observability and performance of transactions. So the first is transaction stats and IO stats. And I have colleagues that have a really wonderful talk on this. There'll be a link at the end, the Datomic must-watch playlist. But really, this just provides observability, and it's how we can demonstrate the value of the next two features. We have transactor hints and implicit partitions. Transactor hints improve read speed by speculatively determining the reads necessary for the transaction and then sending that to the transactor. It sounds complicated. It is not. Well, maybe it is, but we'll make it simple. Implicit partitions improve data locality, improving read performance for operations that do reads like queries and transactions. And so now we had talked about the peer architecture model. We talked about peers. And now we're going to have to talk about transactors. And I have to do this because when I talk about performance scalability, which is the next part, some of the techniques improve performance by shortening the latency of the transactions. So this is my own personal interpretation of our architecture. We have Pierre the peer. We have our cool guy transactor. And we have our storage layer. Even looks like it's partitioned well, huh? So we can see that the peers can read from storage. And then we see the peers write the storage. So we'll do a little bit of a peer review. Okay. Each peer is a service node, and every peer has an address that points at a transactor. There's only ever one cool guy active transactor role per Datomic instance. There's only one machine being that guy. I mean, look at that guy. There's only one of that guy. Well, except when you have an optional high availability backup. So we'll review storage real quick. Storage, pick your poison, any key value store. So, okay. When a peer and a transactor connection is established, the transactor tells the peers, yo, here's your storage. And the peers can read data directly out of storage and then write them to a cache, such as bean cache. And this is done sequentially. First, the peer is like, hey, do I have this? And if it's not there, then it's going to pull it from storage and write it to the cache. So the next time, it's in the cache for us. Peers establish connections to storage directly, as directed by the transactor, and they pull information from storage. Peers also submit transactions to the transactor. A transactor's entire purpose, entire goal in life, is to accept transaction data, commit valid transaction data, and tell the peers what transaction data it has committed. Now, this is really overly simplified because I just needed the context to be able to describe to you Datomic hints. Now, if you want a deeper dive, that Datomic must-watch playlist contains a talk by my colleague Joe Lane, that's a nitty-gritty deep talk, where so many boxes, so many architecture models. You'll love it. It'll be great. So, in October 2024, the first implementation of Datomic hints appeared. It is a scalable approach to identifying work that needs to be done inside of these transactions. This allows a system to begin performing the I/O for the transaction while it's queued. And that takes advantage of otherwise wasted time. So we're reducing I/O inside of our main threads, so our utilization can reduce dramatically, which increases our throughput. So all you have to do is put in return hints true, and that will get attached to the transactor. So if each service peer is a grocery store, you can think of it like curbside pickup or click and collect for the transactor. And just like you can save time by doing your grocery order ahead of time and then having the grocery store person do all, they have the shopping list and they do all the shopping. All you have to do is pull up and everything's ready and they put into your car. By including return hints true and getting the hint, you're passing it to the transactor, giving them the shopping list, you're placing your online order. So all the transactor has to do is pull up and it's ready. Pretty cool. Like I said, watch Joe's talk. It's nitty gritty. So the next feature we're going to talk about is implicit partitions. Oh, it was released on 4/20. That's nice. Okay, 2023. So in Datomic, partitions allow applications to group entities and gain control over data locality. Data locality is how data is physically distributed. Because when you're looking for data, it's in a physical location. And if an application's data is all over the place, it's all mixed together, a query may struggle to find results per storage read, since Datomic will have to read more segments. It'll have to go into different aisles of the store to find things. On the other hand, if you've used implicit partitions, queries can efficiently retrieve relevant data. So it can pull a couple of segments because all the information that it wants is going to be kind of in the same area. So each implicit partition corresponds to an entity ID, and they don't require a transaction to create. And so if we return to our grocery store example, if you're doing your shopping and you wanted a salad because you're healthy, you've turned over a new leaf. And so you can go to the produce aisle and get some lettuce, and then you can go to the dressing aisle and get some lettuce, and then you can go to the cheese aisle and get some cheese. Or if you've ever seen a nice salad bar set up, that is what it's like having implicit partitions. All the stuff that you want for your salad is in one place because you've said, hey, keep track of this. So with implicit partitions, when you transact something new or you query for data, Datomic will pull fewer segments, reducing latency and leading to a much faster database. So both of these features you can look out for, in the next 6 months. In Clojure Camp, we're having monthly doing Datomic meetups. We're doing mob programming, and we're probably going to play around with these features in the next 6 months. So watch out for that if you want to get your hands dirty. Okay. So Clojure and Datomic are running reliably on systems bigger than they've ever have before. And these systems are inherently complex due to banking compliance, regulation. People are complex. Millions of people trust us with their hard-earned money. And we're helping millions of people be empowered with their money. Like I said, Nubank is the biggest independent bank in the world, and it runs on Clojure and Datomic. Recently, Datomic added a couple of new features. We talked about transactor hints, where the peers speculate what segments a transaction will need so the transactor can fetch them early, which means less I/O on the main thread, which is shorter latency, and implicit partitions, which are auto-distributed ID ranges that improve data locality. Kind of like going to the salad bar instead of going down every aisle to find the ingredients, so you don't have to search the entire store. How we recognize that these features do improve performance is with I/O stats and transaction stats. These are built-in observability tools to validate, measure, and tune real-world performance. So you can do the scientific method as recommended. You can poke, you can prod, you can experiment, and you can see the effects of your queries, your transactions. So what does scaling simplicity actually mean? Well, in this talk, where we've talked about architectural scalability and Datomic's peer model and how it distributes the load intelligently, kind of like a town full of well-organized small businesses, kind of like Germany, instead of a single chaotic mega store. And our architectural scalability in the peer model enables services to grow without creating new bottlenecks. So it's infinitely, arbitrarily, horizontally scalable. Beautiful. We also talk about performance scalability. And those features that I just mentioned, transaction hints and implicit partitions, reduce I/O and improve data locality, letting us handle billions of datoms, millions of requests per second, and still reduce our cost to serve, our cost per user. And then we have our people process scalability. Nubank's values simplicity, smart efficiency, and fanatical customer focus. That aligns perfectly with the philosophy behind Datomic and Clojure and Cognitect. And that alignment is part of what's made us so successful together. That alignment helps over 3,000 engineers ship safely, and it helps millions of people access financial tools that they never had access to before. In a poll, over 74% said that Nubank helped their financial health. And so Papa Nubank signs the paycheck, but Datomic is still a product outside of Nubank. Nubank is one of our clients, and we have other clients, from Netflix to the Rare Cancer Research Center to other banks like HSBC. Datomic is scaling, and Nubank is scaling. And if you're curious how Datomic can help you scale too, we'd love to help. Well, clap, yay, done. I'm going to do some more slides. That was the end of the... Okay. The rest of things, I'm just going to do some things to know, things to remember. So this is that Datomic must-watch YouTube playlist. I'll get that up there. It's on my Lambda YouTube, where I've compiled all the greatest hits. I just want to remind you that Datomic is free to use. And we have a really, really good support story. We have a ticketing system that gets addressed for bugs. We are, working on developing workshops and content to help people experience success at Datomic. So, we'd love to talk to you all about, taking these educational opportunities with you or your company or even your group of friends if you want. Just talk to me, talk to Robert in the yellow here. We have the monthly mob programming meetups in Clojure Camp, which I facilitate the intro to Clojure on the first Tuesday of every month and the doing Datomic on the fourth Thursday or last Thursday. Still deciding. And I would like to take a moment to thank the best banana manager ever, Robert. He always wears yellow. A super badass leader, Kat Swatell. It's so awesome having amazing leadership. Her and Justin are great. And most of all, I'd like to thank my my teammates who wrote and explained a lot of these resources. They empowered me to be able to learn this so I can communicate it to you. And that's the beautiful thing about being on a team. Aldo, who's over there in the room, the green shirt, he's been at Nubank for over 5 years, worked with so many of the systems, and we've been creating a lot of this workshop content together. So if you have any more technical questions, talk to Aldo, raise your hand. There's Aldo. Haha, you're on the spot now. I'd also like to thank Darley, who has written a lot around implicit partitions. Joe Lane, Alex Reddington, and Gotti all, helped me when I said, oh God, what have y'all done in the last year? I made a lot of promises in that abstract without knowing the answer to that yet. So yeah. Thank you all for supporting me through the journey. I've been friends with you all for a while now, so the come up has been fun, right? And I'm so excited I get to actually enjoy the conference now. And it's going to be great. And so, yeah, we have a sponsorship table over there. We want to know some things. Are you using Datomic? Why or why not? It's a product. We're still developing it. I have a product manager asking questions that I need to, tell her the answer to. So give me the stuff I need to keep coming back to these things, okay? Okay, I think I'm really done now, unless anyone wants to do any more questions or anything. Woo! Oh.